Hello and welcome to The Appointment. I'm Pranjal Sharma. Joining me for a conversation today is Shashi Kiran Shetty, who is the founder and chairman of AllCargo Logistics, which is one of the biggest logistics companies in the country and has a global footprint. Shashi, thanks very much for being with us.
You're welcome, Pranjal. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Shashi, you built a fantastic empire, I would say, in logistics and done it very quietly over the last 2 decades or so. Give us a little bit of a history of AllCargo. Now I know you have a global footprint, but we'll discuss that later. But tell us about the origins of your company.
Yeah, I started my entire career in a very humble way. I moved to Bombay when I was 21 years old and worked 4 years for a shipping agency company in Mumbai. And something about the entrepreneur bug or something was telling me that I should be doing much more than what I was doing in those days. So I was looking for opportunity. I was only 25 years old, and in the 4 years of experience working in the shipping industry, I made some very good friends, and I consulted a few of them. What is that I should be doing? And a friend of mine said that, why don't you start a forklift business and also business to handle ships in the port of Mumbai, which used to be very heavily congested in those days. The reason that he mentioned that also because it is also always good to have somebody who understands the shipping business, who is on the other side of the fence. So it appealed to me, and obviously I didn't have the capital. I had very little amount of money. And I thought that, this is something I think I should take a plunge. This is the time. I went and met few of the vendors of the company where I used to work for, and made a kind of a informal agreement with them that if I start the internal trucking and handling of the ships in the port of Mumbai, would you support me? So I spoke to 4 or 5 of them, and they said, we had built a good relationship and I knew them well. They said, look, I think we will be there for you. So that gave me a bit of a confidence. And also it so happened that few of the boys from my native town, Mangalore city, also had moved into Bombay, and they've been working there. And very young guys, younger than me. And I told them, guys, would you like to join me? So they said, yeah, if you are there, we will follow you.
So from a professional, you had become an employer already?
Yes, already. So I made these arrangements from both sides, 3 sides actually. I spoke to my potential customers. They said they were willing to consider giving me work. I spoke to the suppliers, whether they were willing to back me. And I spoke to the young boys, whether they were willing to join me. So it all worked out, and that's how I started. Everybody supported me. I've been very thankful to all of them.
All the commitments. I think it was built on relationships.
Relationship, absolutely.
So that was perhaps one of your core strengths.
Yes, even today, that is one of the core value and core of my individuality. And I don't normally burn bridges. Because that's so strong in me right from my younger days. Even when I was in the college, I used to have some very, very good friends, and friendship for me those days was always been that I am there for you in a real sense. We used to have in the colleges, we used to have in those days, two different groups, and those kind of college day clashes used to happen, and we used to stand by each other.
But
So,
in management situation,
yes,
or when you're running a business, is there sometimes a clash of relationship, friendship and professionalism?
I think in business eventually, as you get matured, as you really experience the real world of business, I think sometimes you'll have to leave some people behind. Leave people behind in terms of competence and willingness to learn, willingness to take those challenges, and the energy and the ambition itself. If those things are not there, competency is the other factor. If these things are not there, then you need to then change the gear and get more competent people, and have these guys do what they are good at, right?
So it's a combination of competence as well as relationship that you have to always find the right balance.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Is that difficult for you to do?
Hard. Sometimes it is hard. Bring in new people and get them into the mainstream while taking care of the existing people who've been so loyal and who've been so supportive. But I think life has to go on. As long as it is dealt in a proper way, communicated to people over a period of time, give the others the opportunity to demonstrate what is required, and if that doesn't come through, then obviously I think everybody understands that, because nobody wants, end of the day, the company losing out.
True, because you've also grown individually, and your group AllCargo has grown at a very rapid pace.
Yeah.
It's sometimes difficult for people to keep up with that pace, because at every level of growth, the needs of the organization change.
Yes. For me also what happened is, as the company was growing and expanding, and we created multiple verticals with the business, some of the leadership grown in that vertical, while the other vertical we completely brought people from different experience and competency and education and all that. And when we grew internationally, that was fairly easy, because you have the management team coming from different parts of the world, which is required. You cannot be exporting Indian management to do business in say Belgium, for example, or Germany, for example, because there you need the local language skills are required. You need the local cultural understanding that is required. And in many parts of the world, there are a lot of allegiance to same culture of people to do business with. So you have to take into account so many different aspects, cultural requirements and the market requirements and the skills requirement and all that stuff, right?
What has been perhaps in these more than 2 decades of AllCargo?
Yeah.
Was there any time when you felt really disappointed that things are not going the way that you want to, after you launched and you had initial success thanks to those commitments and relationships?
Yeah.
Did you at some point doubt your decision to become an entrepreneur?
Never. I never had to worry about the decisions that I made. Of course, there are little smaller setbacks that happens to every individual, because I'm not perfect myself, right? I mean, we all make mistakes, and none of these things are taught in the university. So it is always, you make mistakes and learn, as long as the mistakes are not disastrous. I am very happy to make mistakes, and I made plenty of mistakes, and my people make plenty of mistakes, and I accept it. I tell them, don't hesitate to make mistakes, learn, but don't remain static.
And don't repeat the mistake.
Don't repeat the mistake, of course. Yeah.
But the point of listing of your company, that would have been an important milestone for you. How did that, when did you arrive, and how did you arrive at that decision?
First, we got in a private equity investor when we acquired Eculine in Belgium. So the idea was that I don't want it to overexpose my company to buy something which is so big compared to my company at that time, right? And I had no experience of managing a international company. So I wanted to kind of play very safe. So I sold a small equity, about 6% of my shares, and bought 33% of Eculine. And then we, within the next 1 year, after getting a little bit better sense of the company, then we decided to increase the shares.
Shashi, from a young professional in a shipping company in Mumbai to bringing and creating a company which was ready to acquire a much bigger entity in Europe, you had come a long way. What gave you the confidence and the inspiration that you were ready to buy a global company?
Yeah, before I bought this company, I was already in this business for about 15 years, roughly 15 years. I've been learning very fast, and by nature I'm a bit bold. I like somebody who likes to make decisions and move forward in life.
Bold means a very high risk taker?
No, not a very high risk taker, very calculated risk taker. That's the reason I said earlier that I'm financially very, very cautious. That's why I sold part of my shares to buy this part of this company. Like I said also that I bought in stages. I didn't buy everything at one go because I wanted to understand the company. The good part about acquiring this company is these are the people who I worked with for also about 5 years, and I knew the people, and I knew the second tier of management.
You were doing business with them?
I was already doing business with them. So the business is the same, people are the same, and it is the expansion from India to leapfrogging me to the international market, which is something I was always aspiring to. Not probably in this scale so quickly, but I always had joint ventures with the same company in Singapore and Dubai before I decided to invest in the parent company. So you know, so these are some of the things which you know, I'm happy to understand and learn over the years.
So you could since you had an equation with them, you understood the company well, and when there was an opportunity to buy, you took that step.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely.
After that, what was the learning curve? Because you said that you wanted to learn, and you bought and increased your ownership of AQ in phases. What was the key learning of doing business in Europe in a global environment from the kind of experience you had in Mumbai and India?
Yeah. You know, I think generally I feel end of the day, we are all professionals, right? I think one of the most important thing is impose that trust and impose, or rather give the freedom for people to do their job. Particularly in Europe, you know, they don't work in a very chaotic environment. They work on a very clear path, and they need a very clear job description and kind of a very set out parameter in which they need to operate, right? So I learned that very quickly, and I gave the freedom, I gave the trust, but I gave them the direction. I told them what is important for me and what is that need to be done in the organization to turn the company. Now, the company was not doing financially so well. Some of the things like you know, I had to do is certain very harsh decisions. One about letting a lot of people go because there was a lot of fat in the company. There are a lot of incompetent people there in the company. I didn't do it overnight. It had to be done over a period of time, and I had to make a very bold move to make a big investment in developing an IT system for the company. You know, the reason is, one, not only the systems were homegrown, and there was a lot of risk for the organization because it is not properly documented, and you know, it was in the
so
minds
you
of
also
people.
made the entire operation very modern.
Very modern, absolutely.
Here, was it difficult for the European company to accept a non-European as an owner? Did you face issues on that front?
Time to time, you do get that sense, but overall, I got a great support from everybody. You know, I think I didn't particularly face any difficulty of dealing with an Indian businessman per se. But you know, we had our own style of operation that did clash from time to time, where I got some amount of resistance from the people. And you know,
how do you overcome that? How do you build trust with people like this?
You know, firstly giving them that freedom to operate, and making them accountable, right? As long as they do their job and you have a patience, you know, hear them out properly, and when it is required, and because I know the business myself, when some things are said which is not appealing to me, the way the business should be done, there I put my foot down, right? And I also brought in a lot of systems and process in the company which people started respecting, and making those bold decisions in terms of restructuring the organization from time to time, making investment in IT infrastructure, making investment in expanding our network into multiple locations, doing a lot of vendor management within the organization, you know, getting the right talent to within the organization which was missing. You know, there are a lot of these kind of initiatives which you know, which are required. I used to read a lot, discuss and consult with consulting companies, engage them in
as you said, you also made sure that you use technology as a platform to modernize. But tell me, Shashi, as now a player in the global logistics market, where do you see the industry heading? Because there are a lot of interesting changes, some destructive, some constructive, or you would say destructive chaos or constructive chaos or creative chaos is happening because the fourth industrial revolution promises to make a lot of changes, and logistics industry is on the forefront. What are the changes you see in the global shipping and logistics sector?
There are two major challenges in our industry, actually three. One is it is a highly fragmented industry. There are large players, medium players, small players, very small players. So that becomes not a level playing field. That is one of the major issue with the industry. Second is this industry has most of the time have a very high capacity versus demand. So that puts a lot of pressure on the business volatility and predictability of the business. And the third factor is now the digital revolution that is taking place around us, which is likely to impact the logistic industry quite significantly, is what is being expected by far. So I think the fragmentation will continue. The overcapacity is leading to consolidation of the shipping companies globally. I think the number of players will reduce quite considerably, and also the shipping companies are increasingly becoming port-to-port operators, and the logistic services will be left for companies like us, even in the future. I mean, as a bigger and bigger role. So the industry is going through a very difficult time today, one of the most difficult time ever in the history of the shipping industry, that what we are witnessing today. And the disruption, we don't know how and when it will really impact, but we are all thinking, not as an industry but individually as a company, how we protect ourselves, how can we become a digital enabled organization to protect our business going forward. We, as a matter of fact, recently hired one of the top professional from the Silicon Valley to take up a position of Chief Digital Officer in our organization. He recently joined us just about a month ago.
Shashi, you're talking about disruption in the entire logistics value chain. What are the good examples, or what is the way ahead? Are there examples that or steps that you have taken which could point to where the future is?
There are multiple organizations being funded in the United States to develop what you call as a freight exchange. And there are also another venture fund which has invested in a company who's likely to provide online services for the import and export shipment for their logistic requirement. These are all currently initiatives, but we will not know the impact of that. Obviously, the people who are funding it, people who have founded it, have their logical reasons of getting into this, and we believe also that this industry can be significantly managed because this is a very traditional business. There is a set way of doing work.
It's one of the oldest industries in the world.
Exactly.
I mean, from the time of I think 5,000 years old, when mariners set out to trade between continents.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is cross-border shipment. There are a lot of documentation to follow. There are multiple agencies involved in the business. There is a lot of data, manual data that people still have to do today. So there is a lot of process improvements which are possible.
Tell us, where is the logistics sector in India? How would you compare that to what is happening around the world? Or do you see that, at least on this front, India and the rest of the world are on the same arc of development?
India has evolved as a logistic, as an industry over the years. We still unfortunately have quite a bit of infrastructure overhang. If you ask any senior people in the logistic industry globally, one thing they very bitterly complain about is our logistic, not infrastructure setbacks that the country has. For example, let's say the ports. There may not be too much of congestion inside the port, but there is a lot of congestion coming into the port. the rail network is not up to the mark when you compare to the international standards.
And the connectivity between ports and railway is poor.
Sometimes yes, sometimes even if there is a connectivity, the connectivity is not enough, right? So that leads to a lot of backlog of capacity issues, and containers are waiting outside, and the transit time is much longer from Delhi to, say for example, JNPT takes anywhere between 4 to 5 days. It should not take more than 12 or 15 days, which is 15 hours, for example. And that will happen eventually when the DFC comes up. So there are many such bottlenecks, many such inefficiencies. The number of conferences that is being held, a lot of discussions have happened in this area,
and the government
very little improvement happened.
Government has been, I think, from the time when Prime Minister Vajpayee was in charge to today, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi is talking about the Sagarmala project and the Dweepmala, which is really a ring of ports across the subcontinent. How far away are we from realizing that? Do you think the pace has picked up?
There's definitely a lot of focus on the maritime industry by the current government, particularly Mr. Nitin Gadkari, who's extremely dynamic, and he wants to get a lot of things done. But it is taking its own time, because this is, like I said, the industry which has been doing a business in a certain way, and there are multiple governmental agencies who are involved in this, the customs, the port authorities. Adding to that is the congestion, adding to that is the road infrastructure and the rail infrastructure which is lacking. So there are, all these agencies need to be brought together, and the issues needs to be dealt with. It is taking time, but this is the best time, I think, for the country.
Shashi, thank you very much for being with us, and our best wishes for your continued success.
Thank you, Pranjal.